Yeah, I get right to the racks. Then I make that shit back. Run up on me, get shot in the back.
It's Jerry TV, the building for your VS Couch. I'm man. Hey, steady me up.
Ooh, let me get my glasses.
Pops, get your glasses. He's 67 years old. Let him rock. Today we got the Gangland, Divide and Conquer, Latin King, Chicago, Illinois edition. All right. If you didn't check out our other Ganglands, it's called like Norteño versus Sureño documentary 2015. Go check that out. And we also did another one regarding Norteño Gangland. I froze up. Norteño Gangland one. So follow us at Instagram,
Jerry TV. Follow me, Jerry TV.
I'm Jerry TV.
Pops React.
We're on Pops React today.
We got a Discord below. It's super easy to. This channel is unique because we interact with you. We have a good time. Most of the channels you watch is just like talking at you.
Oh, you subbing? You're subbing over there?
What do you mean subbing?
Like, dissing? Sneak dissing?
Yeah, I'm sneak dissing and shit. But, we rock with y'all. Like, we're super accessible, bro.
Allegedly.
Yeah. And if your mom's a single and hot, holla.
It's Jerry TV. Join the Discord below. Follow our gram. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video if you really mess with us. No more talk.
Subscribe, request, react. No more talk.
Let's get it.
Once a king, always a king.
In the Windy City, the crown rules the streets.
Chicago is the motherland for all Latin kings.
I thought it was New York.
They're the violent masters of the city's lawless hood.
Protect the brown pride. Manifesto says kings die, but we multiply.
You can rob people, you can shoot people, you can do whatever you want to do.
The Latin Kings. They'll kill anyone to keep their kingdom pure.
Wow.
They'll sell you out, backstab you, put an SOS on you, slam on sight. Latin Kings in Chicago is the most vicious, brutal, law-breaking gang ever made.
Alright, I might have to debate that because there's other gangs I feel like who put in more pain, and I don't want to do this like...
But how would you say that if you don't know? You should not speak on what you don't know, young man.
Listen,
do you have actual factual statistics?
There's got to be statistics on that.
All right, so let's pull up the statistics and then we'll go off of that. But for you to say, oh, we don't know that they're the most violent.
But he's probably from that gang, so he's saying that.
This was like 20 years ago, by the way. This is an old video.
You know what I mean? There's people who put in more and more pain than them, I feel like. Not even on some like weird shit. I'm just saying like there's other gangs who are more famous. And usually because the reason they're more famous is because they did more murders throughout the years. That's what I'm saying.
No, yeah, but you gotta understand, like, a lot of gangs, the real gangsters, like, we have a culture where we celebrate all the dudes that get arrested.
Or shoot somebody or something.
Shoot somebody,
yeah.
And die. But you know how many dudes is running around here that did so many evil things and never got caught? Those are the real gangsters. It's not the Al Capones. It's not the Gottis.
Yeah, you always say that, like, off camera. You're like...
It's not the Alpos.
He always says they always celebrate the people who got arrested or got booked or...
Yeah. People coming home after 30 years, like, that's not to celebrate. You celebrate the dude. I know a dude that he's been doing dirt since 15, 16. To this day. Never had a job and never been arrested. That's the dudes that are the real gangsters.
Oh, wow.
No more talk.
Wait, you never had a job before? Oh.
Well,
Chicago.
The
Windy City is the home of championship sports teams, world-class restaurants, and a thumping nightlife.
I want to go to Chicago one day.
Hey,
it's also the birthplace of the modern gang. The original Scarface, Al Capone, put Chicago gangs on the map and under his thumb.
I thought he was from Jersey.
Yo, should we do Al Capone, guys?
You might have to do it now.
I've been telling him, please, in the comments, put Al Capone.
Like the video.
And change the way crime happens.
You have the history in Chicago with organized crime.
Capone set up his gang on the north side, where his crew committed some of their most brutal murders. Today, Chicago's gangland is run from Humboldt Park.
Humboldt Park has two sides. The east side of Humboldt Park and then the west side of Humboldt Park is ran by Latin Kings.
Humboldt Park is the birthplace of the almighty Latin King and Queen nation. the heart of their kingdom.
Might vary
that's
to
Queens.
about 20, 30, 40, 50 members on a block. Here's where you got a lot of dominant Latin kings here. It's gonna save your L as a Latin for the Latin. It's gonna give you numbers. It's gonna have a 2. It's gonna have a 7. It's gonna tell you where they're from. From 27th, here's the actual street. 27th and Drake.
Breaking it down.
The Kings, without dispute, are the toughest and best organized gang in Chicago.
Without
These guys are
dispute.
very lethal, and they'll be quick to do what
No,
they have
I
to
was
do.
arguing in America. My fault. He's arguing for the city of Chicago?
You always gotta be right? You're wrong, boy.
Sorry.
I kill that motherfucker, get on beat him. Nothing is a problem. You know what I'm saying? Because you're a Latin king.
Big T asked to have his identity disguised.
Why?
He's a former enforcer for the Latin Kings who grew up in Humboldt Park and joined the gang when he was 15.
I was in love with gangbanging. I was.
Yo, that shit is crazy. That's a wig, bro.
That's fake as fake.
That's a fake mustache. Look at that shit. That shit look like a boho. And let us know where Big T at today in 2024.
That shit look like grass on his head.
That shit is fake.
I was in love
Black
with
grass.
making money. I was in love with. I was in love with the whole package.
His story is not unique.
Boss.
The gang has recruited an estimated 25,000 members from across the entire city.
25,000.
That's a lot of fucking people, bro. That's a lot of people. That's a lot. Pops, that's a lot of people. 25,000, I could fill up a stadium with like
People, that's a lot.
That's a lot. People a lot.
People, that's a lot.
Get rid of us. We're here to stay.
The Latin Kings are 50,000 strong nationwide,
Damn!
making them a super gang
Yeah,
with
Los
huge
Angeles?
chapters in 4 corners of
No
the U.S.,
way.
including Los
Florida
Angeles
makes sense.
and New York. Yet all roads lead back to the motherland, Chicago, where the Latin Kings desire just 3 things.
And money and power. And drugs.
From meth to cocaine to marijuana, they own Chicago's drug trade.
The way you make the money is by selling drugs.
Nation, unlike most gangs, allows women to be full members.
Queens.
They are called the Latin Queens, and they're every bit as hardcore as the Kings.
I had drugs in and out of my house like water. All I had to do was pick up the phone and make a phone call, and I had what I wanted when I
So
wanted
what's
it.
the theory behind like allowing women in, right? Because a lot of gangs don't, but in LA we've seen that there's gang members that, and that's the homeland of gangbanging, right? The motherland of gangbanging, LA, and we notice that LA girls are allowed to like make gangbang, but I feel like other places you don't really see it as much.
You know, but this is a man's world, but it wouldn't be nothing without a woman's touch. James Brown.
Poet.
Sonia Rodriguez asked to have
Sonia.
her identity
Dímelo,
concealed.
Sonia.
Her street name is
Lady
Lady
Q.
Q.
Lady Q. Boom, boom, boom.
Lady Q is the former girlfriend of the mastermind of the Latin Kings, a ruthless criminal named Gustavo Colon, aka Lord Gino.
Gustavo Colon. Boom, boom, boom. Gustavo Colon. Lord Gino Corona.
Lord Gino has been locked up for decades, but managed to build the King's criminal empire from behind bars. Lady Q helped him run the streets.
And I was Gino's eyes and ears. So if I knew that one of the guys was trying to get over on him, whether it was a drug deal or just scamming on him, I used to bring it to Gino's attention. That person used to be dealt with on the spot.
Lord Gino is currently behind bars
Colorado.
at the Supermax prison in Florence, Colorado.
So all the
He's
big
on
bosses
lockdown.
are in that?
We're gonna do a reaction to this and put Colorado in the comments. Yo, the Supermax.
Yeah, we gotta do that.
The jail is underground.
So they're not going
And everybody there from El Chapo
to like the big dogs.
to Pistol Pete, Bloody Murder from 6 Money Murder from New York City, Gotti, everybody's underground in that prison, and they come out. They're locked down 23 hours. They got 1 hour of rec time.
100%.
No outside world contact.
100%.
It's the most lockdown shit. Yeah, 100%.
Like guys, like just stay in school or something. Like
stay in school.
It's
Don't
not
be no
worth it.
fool.
Because all this money and fame you could get from like being a gangster or
That should mean nothing.
that
Follow
don't
your
mean
heart
nothing
and
when
not your friends.
Yo, that don't mean nothing when you're in that prison cell, bro, and you're talking to the walls and like losing your mind.
And that shit, hey yo,
crazy,
you in
bro.
jail, you're gonna have some big dude dry humping you. Real talk.
Alongside some of the country's most notorious
Come here,
criminals.
Daddy.
But that has done little to diminish his power.
No, he was the original Latin Kings. He is the man.
Lord Gino is, we consider him as a corona.
Ow, my ears!
Chicago authorities have struggled for years to stamp out Lord Gino and the Latin Kings. And they've learned there's just one way to do it. Divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer. Hey, whack ass beats. This is a whack ass beat.
This is a whack ass. This is a.
2003.
I wasn't even born yet. The fuck?
A joint task force formed, comprised of the ATF and the Cook County Sheriff's Department. Their plan, to cripple the Kings by taking out their top leadership. They called it Operation Broken Crown. Wow. There was only one way to gather information about the gang. From the inside.
We have
Per usual.
individuals working off their arrest, or we also have individuals who are working for monetary purposes, and we have individuals working for revenge purposes.
Two high-ranking informants would help authorities learn confidential information about the Latin Kings' hierarchy and operations. But to gather evidence to build a case, they needed a mole. Then one landed in their lap.
One of the confidential informants had introduced me to a relative who was also a Latin King. And based on that introduction, he decided to become a confidential informant with ATF.
The Latin King agreed to wear a digital recording device.
Oh wow.
He was the last person the gang would suspect.
The individual was actually the guy in charge of searching all the other kings coming into the gang meetings.
The snitch wore a secret bug to meetings. The task force heard the name of one Latin king, time and time again. Fernando Ace King.
Boricua, right? Boricua.
He is feared amongst the kings. He is a very violent individual.
Ace was the #2 Latin King leader in Chicago. He provided protection for gang members in the drug trade and was known for his quick temper and brutality. In 2006, the informant set up a phony drug business and paid Ace for protection.
Our informant approached him and said, well, you know me as a drug dealer, and I'm going to start my drug business again. Will you afford me the same protection that you afford other Latin King gang members?
Ace wasn't paid in cash. So one cold Chicago night,
beat is hard.
the informant gave Ace a fake kilo of cocaine. This surveillance video shows Ace with the coke wrapped in a towel, stuffing it into a heating duct. The task force was gathering priceless evidence against Ace and the Latin Kings.
Huh?
It's crazy, right?
But the nation's powerful empire wouldn't crumble that easily.
No matter where you from, we all like kings, man.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. What I do, okay? I do a female. You don't do that.
Wherever you go, there's always a Latin King. We're just that big.
One, two. I said 1, 2, 3. 3, 2.
Chicago. Stretched along the cold shores of Lake Michigan, it's home to almost 3 million. To an estimated 25,000 gangbangers who live here, Chicago represents just one thing. The almighty Latin King and Queen Nation.
They get stronger and stronger. You know, every year they have new recruits. Every year they have new members joining in. It's like a never-ending story.
Round and round.
Okay, I'm a Latin King. Oh, man.
The story of the Latin Kings begins in the 1940s when Puerto Ricans and Mexicans fled political upheaval and sought refuge in Chicago.
Since when Boricuas moved to Chicago? I never heard of this in my lifetime. So
yeah, there's a big Puerto Rican presence there, yo.
I know it's the Bronx, if you're in the Bronx, or not even like Florida now. There's a lot of Puerto Ricans there, but I never really heard of Puerto Ricans being in Chicago.
No, yeah, it's a big Puerto Rican presence.
You said it?
No, because there is.
You're looping now?
I'm looping.
Instead, many Spanish-speaking immigrants found racism.
The one thing that set impression to me when I was in the United States was the unfairness that was shown blatantly by people in authority towards the people of color.
The immigrants responded by forming what they called social groups, claiming that they strengthened their sense of community. One of those was the Latin Kings.
The Latin Kings was actually formed to protect the people.
Unusual, right?
Back in the days, it was to help secure the neighborhood.
In the 1960s, the Latin Kings found themselves in the thick of the civil rights movement, working to change the system.
They weren't a gang of thugs. They got the people together. They registered them to vote. They pushed for education, for equal rights.
This dream of change didn't last long.
The drug trade got introduced into the neighborhood. The easy money and the greed. People were getting killed left and right.
By the early 1970s, the former community group earned a new label as more and more Kings got into dealing.
You're fighting, fight might lead to shooting or whatever it might end up being, where now it becomes a street gang.
You seem nervous, right? That
Two young leaders began to emerge as the gang's ranks swelled. On the south side, it was Raul Gonzalez, a Mexican also known as Baby King, or BK. On the north side, it was a Puerto Rican named Gustavo Colon, known as Gino. Even at the age of 18, he stood out.
He did have that kind of power and that kind of charisma. His stature was that big.
The Chicago PD was noticing Gino as well, for all the wrong reasons. On September 28, 1972, they charged Gino with shooting and killing another teen in the Humboldt Park neighborhood.
Wow, 1972, that's so long ago, bro. And I think he's still locked up now, it looks like.
Yeah, let us know what's
Or
the
is he still
story
alive?
with this gentleman. Is he still alive?
Well, we did kind of cover him before we did the Latin King Swamp Stories documentary, so we kind of have an idea who this gentleman is, right?
No, yeah, I have an idea, but I don't know if he's still in jail.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's still alive.
Where I forgot.
Gino was convicted of murder and sent to Stateville Prison in Joliet, Illinois, for 30 to 60 years.
30 to 60.
How do you get that sentence?
Once inside, he began to compose a system of intricate laws for the Latin Kings. He called it a constitution.
While he was in prison, he made those codes of conduct and the rules for all the Latin Kings all over. And then they were all spread out to all the nation, to the hoods, and everybody had to abide by those rules.
The code of conduct became the lifeblood of the nation.
Back then, it was straight. You were a Latin King, you had to learn your laws, you had to know what your beliefs were.
Puerto Rican immigrant Raimundo Sanchez was only too willing to follow Gino's rules. The 11-year-old lived in fear of an abusive stepfather and wanted a way out.
I remember and got between the gun, and so he didn't get a chance to shoot me.
That's what.
In 1975, Raimundo became a Latin King by way of a violation. He joined the hundreds in Chicago who now swore allegiance to the nation. Around that same time, the Kings began to allow women into the gang. They became known as Latin Queens and were expected to be as hardcore as the men.
We used to go out there and beat up people and shoot at people and carry drugs and slang drugs, just like the Latin Kings. It didn't make a difference. We were just female. That's all.
15-year-old Sonia Rodriguez, a.k.a. Lady Q, endured a 3-minute beating to join the gang. Before long, she was running her own 6-woman crew.
The Queens back in the days were bad. At the time, I felt like I was on top of the world. I thought I won a gold medal.
Her crew was pushing cocaine and making money.
Back then, it was all about making money and trafficking drugs. That was me. I've never seen so many drugs and money than at the time I was a Latin queen.
Well, it's like an expansion of a store. If you ain't willing to be violent and fight for that store, then you ain't welcome.
While the gang had other leaders, like BK, Gino was eclipsing them from his prison cell and becoming the face of the Latin Kings. By 1983, he held the title of Corona and was being called Lord Gino by everyone. Lord Gino carried himself like royalty
For prison.
and held court with only a select few.
Lord Gino would only deal with certain amount of people.
Wow.
He would never have direct contact with some of the underlings. He would more or less shield himself from the amount of people who could damage him.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I feel like that
Most
happens even in the workplace or the work. Like, right, you have a boss, and that your boss has a boss that you probably don't even talk to.
Yeah, it's a chain of command.
Yeah,
And
that's life, right?
very important. Like, he's smart enough to organize this from behind a prison wall. That shows his intellect is very high.
I mean, it's happened before, but
Yeah,
but in the 70s, it's pretty.
Well, without a doubt, it has happened before, but this is one of the cases where it has happened before. It's kind of interesting how
Accepted
smart
Lord
he is.
Gino's leadership, except for Lady Q.
Lady Q.
When word got back that Gino's authority was being questioned, he asked her to visit him at Stateville Prison.
This beautiful, handsome man came up to me talking about what you got to say now. And I looked at him, I repeated every word. And ever since that day, he didn't want me to visit nobody. I had to go see him personally. We trusted each other, and there was nothing that I couldn't tell that man.
She became Lord Gino's private liaison and greased the wheels with some of his most important allies, the prison guards.
I used to meet guards on the south side and pay them off, and they used to take a certain amount of drugs into the penitentiary space.
Under Lord Gino's guidance, the Kings were taking over Illinois' prisons.
Latin Kings are the ones, they receive all the drugs in the prison system. And if you want any kind of drugs, you have to go through a Latin King.
Really? Wow.
In 1985, Big T, an enforcer for the Kings, landed in prison on drug charges. His punishment only furthered his business.
I was still holding it down in the prison because I was still a Latin King, and people still feared me in the prison. I was still winning the deck that I was on.
Run the deck, you heard?
The Latin Kings were growing. Based on the teachings of Lord Gino, the gang exploded into New York and across the country.
Latin Kings are all the same all over.
And that's a true story because growing up in the Bronx, we had a lot of biker gangs. We had the Chingalings, we had Lords of the something. We had a lot of gangs, and then in like the early in the 90s, it just boom. It's just like these dudes walking around with black and yellow on, Latin Kings.
I don't know where, right?
Out of nowhere, repping hard. And you would be in the park, they'll come in the park, be like, yo, we having a meeting. They'll be like, you having a meeting? Latin Kings having a meeting, you gotta go.
Wow.
And we'd be like, we gotta go. We moved then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how they move.
Maybe just a few different rules might change here and there, but it's the same literature, same code of conduct.
Lord Gino seemed invincible, until some say he crossed the line. July 1989, Stateville Prison. The prison immediately suspected Lord Gino had ordered the hit.
You're not going to just kill or assault an officer unless it comes from somebody of authority, because there's always repercussions.
The warden ordered stepped-up surveillance on Lord Gino, but the prison never charged him with the crime. Lord Gino was transferred to a correctional center in Pontiac, Illinois, in order to diminish his control of Stateville. The kingdom was under fire, and before long, fractures began to form at even the highest levels.
Gino was the kind of person that used to
I'll put you onto some old school hip hop shit, bro. That shit brought back memories. We're gonna wheel it back a little bit. Look at Homeboy's shoelaces. We used to put fat shoelaces, and that shit's gonna come back. We used to put fat shoelaces on our sneakers. So you would buy the sneaker.
In order to diminish his control of...
You would buy the sneaker that had laces. You take the laces out and you buy fat shoes.
No, it came back. Lanvin, that company, they're like almost like Balenciaga now. They're going up.
Yeah.
It's called Lanvin, and they have big shoes with the big laces now.
Yeah.
Like fat shoes with fat laces.
I seen them fat shoes, but we used to have skinny shoes with
okay.
The kingdom was under fire.
Look at these
and
fat
before
laces.
long, fractures began to form at even
Fat
the
laces,
highest levels.
Gino was the kind of person that used to say, keep your friends
And your
closer, keep your
enemies
enemies
closer.
closer.
You
Cliche.
can never put all your trust in nobody. Period.
Shut up. You tough after the fact. Shut up. No, I'm playing. I'm scared, bro.
The almighty Latin king and queen nation. Born and bred in the Humboldt Park neighborhood in Chicago.
Very cool.
The oldest and largest Hispanic gang in America.
Really?
It can be found in almost every state.
You got
Wait, you sure? I
taxation.
don't think it's the oldest because I feel like Mexicans been longer.
Yeah, but he said Latin kids could be traced to the 1940s.
But there's Mexican kings in the 50s, 60s, right? 40s.
40s before 50s.
But 40s.
No go.
Alright, you're right.
York, Connecticut, North Carolina, South Carolina, California, basically in almost 41 states.
I got you.
The super gang follows an intricate system of rules, symbols, and hierarchies dreamed up by the King of Kings, Gustavo Colon, aka Lord Gino.
There's literature, and I mean, it's just so much more organized than any other street gang.
That organization starts with the gang structure, which mimics a corporation. In Chicago, it's divided into regions: Montrose, Humboldt Park, South Chicago, Little Village, and Crown Town. Inside each region are dozens of chapters, which are largely divided by neighborhood. The chapters and regions are governed by an elaborate hierarchy that begins with the two Coronas, Lord Gino and BK.
Real quick, I want to make this point. So I think Chicago is very segregated, right? Almost like Texas and other places. And Philly too, because like Philly, you have like sections where there's just a bunch of Hispanic people, right? And then Philly's mostly African American. It is, right?
African American.
So is that how Chicago is? Like it's like you go to African American. Miami's like that too. Like it's very segregated. Like you go to certain places and there's only Haitians there, like
Cuba.
And they don't mix. Like there's no mixing and all that. So like, is it like that out there too? It has to be. Cause
Yeah, that is not.
you
Then
never see
come
Hispanic
regional
Chicago
officers,
gangs like that.
similar to generals.
There would be 15 to 20 chapters to one region officer. It would go from those coronas to the region officers. The region officers had a certain amount of chapters under them. Nation enforcers were to run all the chapters under them.
The power flows downward. At the top of each chapter are Incas, the highest-ranking officers. The cacique, Spanish for chief, is second in command. Each chapter has an enforcer who makes sure everyone follows the rules. Finally, there are the Latin King soldiers, the backbone of the gang.
It's basically a chain of command, and everybody has to follow it.
In a city like Chicago, recruiting is a top priority. There's no age limit or race requirement.
Oh wow!
And recruits come from all over the metro area. All that matters is their willingness to put in work.
You could be young as 10 years old. It really doesn't have a number. If you got the heart to do it and you can prove it, we'll initiate you right in. You could get initiated by taking a violation in, which is a 3-minute violation.
You got any tattoos on you?
The recruits might also have to commit a crime as proof of their loyalty.
You check them already?
You still want to turn in Larry King, we might send you to do hits.
Pull up your pants, man. Where do you stay at?
We might send you to do some missions. We might have you shoot somebody.
Wow.
Have you rob somebody. Have you do some, things in the hood to prove yourself.
It's only after passing these physical tests that a recruit can learn the teachings of the nation. The soldier must memorize the rules and swear to honor them.
Everybody had to abide by those rules, and they took that really seriously. And they really followed those rules, which is the reason of their success.
To the Latin Kings, every letter, every word, every action stands for something.
Almighty stands for a love measured in great harmony toward Java. In Latin, is Latin American tribe illuminated naturally. And kings is knowledge and indestructible nobility going strings. And nation is natural allies together in one nucleus.
The Latin Queens are also a critical part of the gang. They're recruited and expected to perform.
We used to look out for the guys when they were gonna go do their dirt. But as time went by,
we started doing the dirt.
The girls got in as bad as the guys.
Yeah.
Latin kings and queens promise to follow 5 guiding principles.
Once a king, always a king. No king shall engage in gay acts. No kings are supposed to be collaborating with the media.
Oh, wow.
And no king is to lead the nation without the approval from those coronas. And one king moves, all kings move.
Those who break the rules are disciplined at weekly meetings.
During these gang meetings, they have the leader who plays the judge. You have a legal coordinator who has to represent the guy, and they decide, well, this person's going to get kicked out of the gang if he's going to get violated.
In this case, a violation refers to physical punishment.
Okay.
This video shows the violation of a soldier who didn't carry out an order to kill a rival.
Dummy, you should have just did it.
The Kasinka ordered everybody to get in a circle, which they normally do for the meeting. And then after that, everybody in that house was told to beat that Latin King gang member. Gold Rush was coming to your chapter. You know if something was wrong. You get a bullet to the knee, baseball bat to the head, your crown stripped.
How do you go to the hospital for that? You're like, oh, I hurt my knee. Like, you don't tell.
Sometimes even death.
It's crazy, right?
The Latin King's colors are sacred.
The colors that we stand for and we believe in, which is black and gold. Gold is for the sun, where we pray to Yahweh as we face the east. And black is for darkness amongst all enemies.
Their favored symbols are the crown and the lion, icons of courage and pride. The crown also shows up in their tags, which mark their territory. The kings on Chicago's south side, who are largely of Mexican descent, traditionally represent with the 5-point crown. The 5 points represent love, honor, obedience, sacrifice, and righteousness.
If you're in Latin King territory, you will definitely see markings of a crown with L on one side of it and a K on the other side of it, which stands for Latin Kings.
Our 3-point crown is knowledge, wisdom, and understanding.
All Latin kings who represent with the crown know one thing for certain. Death is never far away.
King of Kings, maker of the universe and foundation of life.
As this video from 1990 shows, those who fall are given the ultimate respect. The king being honored here was shot and killed a few days earlier by a rival gang member.
King loved yesterday, today, tomorrow, always, and forever. Amor. Amor.
Death may be a reality for the kings, but the message to other gangs remains clear. If you mess with one Latin king, you mess with the entire nation.
You walk around in the wrong neighborhood with wrong colors, you might get stopped, you might get checked, you might even get shot at. So you gotta know where you're at when you're in Chicago. Motherfuckers out here, they ain't playing around.
(1989), Pontiac, Illinois. The brutal murder of a prison guard led to the transfer of Latin King leader Lord Gino to Pontiac Prison. The move, intended to cut off his control of the Latin King nation, had no effect.
He controlled the prisoners. He controlled them all.
Sonia, are you putting your name?
The Kings are the largest gang in prison, and they're the most feared gang in prison. They have access to a lot of weapons and drugs inside prison.
You talk about in Illinois,
trouble
right,
is
guys?
brewing in the kingdom. For For more than 5 years, Sonia Rodriguez, Lady Q, had been Lord Gino's girlfriend and helped him run the nation.
I used to visit him 5 times a month. Wow. Talk on the phone. I mean, being his girlfriend is not glamorous.
Lady Q caught wind of a rumor that one of Lord Gino's closest associates was a snitch. Gino didn't buy it.
I can tell Gino he's no good till my face turned blue. Gino was not gonna believe no one until that person messed up themselves. I told Gino what they're saying is true. He's no good. He's a trick.
A trick is like people who
trick is a snitch.
Soon, Lady Q made a request of the Corona. She was tired of the life and asked Lord Gino to retire.
I wanted him to give up his crown, do his time, get out, and make a life with me. That's what I wanted.
Lord Gino refused.
I guess the power was.
He said, "No, I like being here with men.
I love laying in jail and to pictures of beautiful stars
and getting some jail coochie."
Jail coochie.
Yo, why would you say that? I would edit that part.
That's all that really mattered at the time, was having that power.
Lady Q walked away from Gino and her standing as the Queen of Queens. It didn't take long for Lord Gino to find a replacement. In 1990, he was transferred again, this time to Menard Correctional Facility, 350 miles south of Chicago. There, he legally married Marisol Rodriguez.
Marisol?
Like Lady Q before her, she became his eyes and ears.
He's collaborating with his wife, and he sends a lot of messages through her to the streets.
Lord Gino's power seemed undiminished, and he was close to being a free man. In 1997, Lord Gino was finally eligible for parole after spending 25 years in various prisons. He had no idea that behind the scenes, the ATF had been quietly building a federal case against him, uncovering proof of his drug business.
He had numerous cell phones. Even as cell phones were starting to become new wave, he had a network that he was able to communicate with people on the outside.
Lord Gino was granted parole and scheduled to be released from prison. The nation was prepared to receive its king.
Every chapter was on standby because there was going to be a big nation party that weekend for him.
At the last minute, the ATF dramatically took Lord Gino into custody before he even left his cell.
Gino Colon was taken out on a stretcher.
The mental games they play. I mean, I don't mind these people, detectives and all that, playing mental games, and I wonder if there's a law behind that. Like, you have to let them know if you're gonna put a case on somebody.
No,
obviously not. But you know what I mean. Like, let them know right away. Like, the case. You're gonna be charged.
Sometimes even if there was a law, someone this dangerous, they're like, we're gonna lock them up and then we'll deal with everything else later.
Bound to the stretcher. We knew that if we went down there in force and showed up, we were causing a possible problem for the prison population.
He was charged with conspiracy, contributing drug trafficking, and all kinds of charges.
Gino's wife, Marisol, was also charged with conspiring to distribute cocaine, heroin, and marijuana. The Latin Kings were stunned.
Bam! Just knocked our head off. Wow. Everybody started pointing fingers, everybody started talking about it was this brother, it was that brother. It was his wife gave him. There was all kinds of rumors going around.
I cried. I was actually sitting in my kitchen, and my sister called me, and she's like, Gino's on the news. And I turned on the news, and I'm like, wow, again.
Lord Gino was found guilty of 18 charges, ranging from drug conspiracy to using a telephone to facilitate a drug felony. He was sentenced to life imprisonment and transferred to the United States Supermax in Florence, Colorado.
She told him to chill, man. The wife told him to chill, even though he wants to keep running it. He should have laid low, got home, and then took over the streets. But he probably would end up going back anyway. That power gets to your head.
The same thing with like Suge Knight.
But you can't. How do you feel the power from prison? Explain it
Because
to
he's
me.
running shit, bro.
But it doesn't matter. You don't see it, right? I'm a visual guy, so I need to see.
I think your analogy is correct because, in a sense, you would think, like, logically, you'd be like, I need to get the hell out of this prison so I can
see the world.
Yeah. Apparently not.
They based the whole trial on the phone conversations. They found him guilty on 18 charges and found him not guilty on one. They gave him the door to appeal, and I'm praying to God that he beats the appeal.
For the first time, Lord Gino was put in lockdown, confined 23 hours a day, and allowed only 2 phone calls a month.
What the fuck?
It was a blow to the Latin Kings, but they wouldn't go down without a fight.
Latin King. Los Latino Kings. Los Rey de Latino.
From 1997 to 2003, the Latin Kings expanded their criminal enterprise in Chicago.
Latin Kings were heavily involved in the fake green cards for aliens.
Oh, wow.
They were making a lot of money off of that.
The gang had other, more sinister scams.
What we call tumbes.
What's that?
Stick ups.
You heard of that one?
We find a drug dealer who's in the neighborhood. He's not paying taxes to us, so we go and stick up his house and take all his dope and money.
They started to create legitimate businesses. Any type of business that's a cash business, because you're allowed to funnel money through it.
In December 2003, 5 years after Lord Gino's arrest, a joint task force mounted yet another major offensive against the Latin Kings. Operation Broken Crown. For 3 years, the task force gathered hundreds of hours of secret tapes, wires, and recordings, including this violation of a gang member, Ace King.
And that number 2 has been sort of the target spot for the feds.
The task force laid a trap for Ace and the gang, using snitches inside the Latin Kings. One informant posed as a drug dealer and gave Ace a kilo of fake cocaine in return for protection.
Tell me.
On December 5th, 2006, the feds sprung their trap. Ace was picked up at his mother's house and charged with drug conspiracy and cocaine distribution.
I believe we had in excess of 100 undercover recordings with Fernando King, either in person or maybe on a telephone, a quick phone call.
Ace and 34 other Latin Kings were arrested on charges ranging from conspiracy to possess and distribute cocaine to being a felon in possession of a firearm. 34 were found guilty and sentenced between 5 to 40 years in prison. Fernando Ace King was found guilty of all charges. His sentence is still pending. The task force had succeeded with Operation Broken Crown, but there would always be more kings where Ace had come from.
You kill me, the next one born the next day. You kill him, and there will be another one born the day after. You can't get rid of us. We're here to stay.
For nearly 40 years, the Latin Kings have ruled Chicago. Their leader, Lord Gino, the almighty Corona, has spent most of that time in prison. Gino is now in exile in the Colorado Supermax prison, cut off from the nation he built from behind bars. His power is diminished, but not extinguished.
Lord Gino is, we consider him as a Corona. There's certain kings out there that don't give a about him. He ain't nobody no more. He's locked up. But a lot of people fail to realize that, yeah, he's locked up, but he has business still from his wife.
Whether you are an old school king or a new school, you know who Lord Gino is, and you know that you have to give your respects to the man regardless.
The ATF and Cook County Sheriff's Department Joint Task Force says that with 35 convictions of high-ranking Latin kings, Operation Broken Crown was a success.
Wow.
They admit, however, that their investigation only focused on Chicago's South Side, leaving the rest of the city untouched.
Oh, wow.
Some say they should have thrown a wider net.
When they did the Operation Broken Crown, they only hit specific streets on the South Side.
Yeah, because they're
They
probably
should
putting
have
them on
made
pain,
it a
right?
nationwide thing.
Chicago authorities track down the Latin Kings every day on these streets.
What do you ride with, bro? 2-7 and Holman also?
However, they are realistic about their efforts. When one king goes down, another pops up.
I don't really think we can ever win. I think all we can do is slow it down.
Got phones, they even said Holman the 23rd. See? He's a king from Holman the 23rd.
And that's just being realistic. I think we can slow it down.
All right, Koofy guy.
You're gonna disappear.
Koofy.
No loitering. Go home. It's too cold.
Word.
The sting serves as a warning to the next leader of the Latin Kings.
It's going to be the choice of the next Latin king who wants to be the next Fernando king. And does he want to take a chance of being infiltrated in the future and possibly arrested and, spending the rest of his life in jail? That's the chance that that person has to take.
To some kings, the risk of arrest or even death is no longer worth taking. Lady Q left the nation for good in the 1990s after she ended her relationship with Lord Gino.
It just wasn't worth it. I didn't want it no more. Either I'm going to go to jail and do a lot of time if I stay in this, or either I walk away and get my together. I chose
Smart
to
girl.
walk away.
Smart.
She
She's
left with Lord Gino's blessing.
Smart one of
It wasn't as easy for Big T to make that choice.
I wanted to get out. And first they didn't want me to, get out, but they really couldn't hold me back. And if I'm willing to pay the price, then there's nothing that can hold me back.
Big T did pay the price,
Get back
choosing
down.
to be violated out of the gang.
Oh, wow.
You get a hit on your face, you get a hit on your
How long was the
body,
violation?
your legs. I mean, whatever. They're kicking you, they're hitting you, however possibly they can hit you. Because that's your violation now. There is nothing no more after that.
He still lives in Chicago, but reveals little about his current life.
No shit.
Big T admits that at the end of the day, he's still loyal to the gang.
Oh, wow.
Deep down in my heart, I'm still a Latin king because I still got a lot of love for the nation. You know what I mean? But I just don't want to live that lifestyle anymore.
Crazy lifestyle.
For every king that walks away, thousands more remain in the nation.
For every Lion King, there's a Koofy sheriff detective.
Chasing them down.
Some say they're writing a never-ending story that will keep someone on the throne forever.
The whole system is based on your fear of them and what they can do to you.
I mean, alright, bro, we get it. It's Jerry TV. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, we love you, man. We are out of here. Peace.
And I know how it gets, so I gotta stay low now, move my knot. I don't trust no nigga, I don't trust no man, ain't no friends, everybody get shot. You never know how nigga gon' throw, I'm hitting the flow with a couple of shots. You better move, you better